Everyone's SDS SuperCoach, providing SuperCoach content for you. I'm here to present some hot takes I've gotten from subscribers, from mates as well. And look, I'm going to try to make this a bit of a quicker video. I've been doing pretty long videos. There's still another 11 spots in my league. So it's 911245. So make sure you join if you haven't already. It would be fantastic. And like and subscribe if you haven't already. So let's get straight into it. If you guys can't read it, I'm sorry. I'll read it out myself. Track will average more than Clayton Oliver. Thank you for Kobe Jacobs for giving me this one. So Christian Petracca, he's an absolute gun, and well, they're both guns. Will he score more than Clayton Oliver next year? It's a bold call, but if Petracca, I mean, he looks in ripping Nick on TikTok and all the preseason photos. If he can do that, it's a tremendous achievement. So I don't actually whether it's more Oliver having disappointing season. So for each one, I'm gonna go valid or invalid in my opinion. I'm gonna say this is invalid. Clayton Oliver is just a different beast when it comes to SuperCoach scoring, in my opinion. You would have to really rely on a bit of a drop-off season from him and Petracca to really take over there. But I think Clayton Oliver's more tutored towards being a SuperCoach player more than Christian Petracca. But thank you for the suggestion, Kobe. This is from Dom Thompson, another Hawk mate of mine. Tom Mitchell will be the best SuperCoach player in 2023. I'm going to go with invalid. I think this might be the biggest stretch out of all of them. It's going to be a bloody good effort for him to be that SuperCoach pig that he once was. He's now heading into his, he's 29 now. He's heading into his 30s. We're going to start to see him slow up a bit. But does that mean he's going to have a better role for next season? Absolutely. He's not going to be coming off that half-forward line where Hawthorn was sort of transitioning and they decided to let him go. He's now at Collingwood, where he'll be more of a focal point in that Collingwood midfield. And I think he'll be a very good – he's going to be a lot better than he was last year for SuperCoach. But what I think is going to happen is he's going to be diving in a bit more in and under, diving in more in and under, and getting those handballs out of packs, and he will be disposing it to the likes of Daicos, Goey, Scott Pendlebury, Crisp, you name it. So I think him and Taylor Adams will sort of be doing that sort of role. I think he will be back playing midfield very consistently for the Pies. But I think for him to be the best SuperCoach player, it's going to be a tough ask, in my opinion. So I'm going to say this is invalid, but thank you for the suggestion. Nick Daicos will be a sucker pick, will average mid-90s at best. Thank you to my man Jordan Peeler for the suggestion. He'll be a sucker pick. I'm going to say, well, Nick Daicos will be a sucker pick. I'm going to say that's invalid, but will average mid-90s at best. I'm going to say this is valid. I'm going to be honest. I'm actually not big on the Nick Daicos train for this season, and I should probably be a bit nicer with him. I am Facebook friends with him. We used to go to the same school together, and he's a ripping kid. Last conversation I had, he was like 13 years old. So, I think Nick Daicos, he's certainly a very popular pick. I think he's the most popular SuperCoach premium defender, and I think we will be seeing that continue. I think it's because of the name. That's why he's probably so highly owned. I'm going to say I don't think he'll be a sucker pick, in my opinion. I think he will deliver mid-90s at best, in my opinion. So I do agree with that. I think he could be similar to like a Jack Crisp. It's a big ask. It's similar to Jack Crisp for 2022. It's a big ask for him to have such a be one of the absolute premiums down back for next season. He's second year. I think there's going to be a lot more attention that goes his way. I think he's their main focal point down at the Pies. So, look, I think he's a fine pick for, I guess, what his score is. But if you want him to be a top echelon player, I personally don't reckon he's going to be that. If you want to go with that, go for him. I'm just giving my opinion. You don't have to listen to it at all. But I personally reckon he's going to be a mid-90s at best. I do agree with that. I'm going to say that's valid. I don't think he'll be a sucker pick, though. Noah Anderson will be a top 10 mid by the end of the season. This is another one by Jordan Peeler, so thanks again, mate. He'll be a top 10 midfielder. I'm going to say, I get what he's coming from. I'm not going to say invalid. I'll say a slight valid. I think, obviously, there's a lot of names and there's a lot of blokes that can come out of nowhere to be a top 10 midfielder. But there's certainly a lot of candidates for that. So it's just whether you pick the right one. So if you think Noah Anderson can do that, then go for it. I'm not stopping you. Everyone can pick whoever they like. I'm just giving my opinion. So I'm going to give it a slight valid. I think he's in that conversation along with like Chad Warner, Tom Green, LDU, these sort of breakout candidates. And he did sign until 2027, which is brilliant news. And maybe that's a sign for him to go absolutely bananas for 2023. So I'm going to give it a slight valid. I don't mind the idea. Chad Warner will be a top 5 mid for SuperCoach. My bad. I've got on my phone where all these notifications came from, all these requests. So this is from Noah Fisher. Thank you very much, mate. Love the fish. So will he be a top 5 mid? I'm going to say this is invalid. I think if it's similar to maybe like a Noah Anderson, if he said maybe like a top 10, I would have gone with that. But I'm going to say this is a bit invalid. I think it's a big ask. He's going to get a little bit more attention. I think everyone knows his name a bit more now compared to last year where he just really broke out and become an absolute young gun in the competition. I think he's going to get more attention in the midfield, especially if Callum Mills sometimes drops off that half back line that we usually, well, not usually, but we sometimes see. So I think that I'm going to say invalid, but I think he's a decent selection for maybe that top 12 range. So, yeah, look, that's just my opinion. This is from SuperCoach Pro. This is from Brad. Not a player hot take or controversial opinion. It is mid-price madness is a better strategy this year more than any other years. I'm going to say valid. I really like this call from SuperCoach Pro. I love Brad. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. But I do agree. I think we're sort of leaning more towards this mid-price madness. Now, this might have came from last year where Guns to Rookies wasn't so effective. Where we're seeing now in SuperCoach, we're leaning more towards that mid-price madness. And I think another reason for that, I did mention this on my Twitter, Stephen D.W. Smith, if you want to follow me on there, is that I think now with the tactical sub rule, it's not the medical sub rule anymore, it's the tactical sub rule. So each team will be subbing a player out at some point in the game. And I think that's going to mean us more wanting senior bodies on the field instead of rookies, because they're going to be the ones at risk getting subbed out or being the sub just because they're inexperienced. So I think Brad's absolutely spot on. Look, at the minute, I've actually kind of changed my team a little bit from the team update. It's a little bit different. I've actually at the minute got 11 premiums on my side and a few more mid prices, but my team's not set in stone, of course. But I do think it's a better strategy. If we're gathering off last year where we saw so many mid prices, just to try to name a few, I think Sicily, Hewitt. There was a fair few as well, but I can't quite think off the top of my head. You could think Canelio as well. But I think this is a really decent strategy heading into next year. Now, you could go Guns to Rookies, but at the minute, I'm leaning more towards having a few more of these mid-price madness players. But I don't think you want to overdo it. I think there is a limit because there is ways where it can go wrong, but you've got to make sure you pick the right player. So I'm going to say valid from SuperCoach Pro. Aaron Hall goes 115. I'm going to say this is invalid because it is bloody hard for a defender to go 115 plus or 115 or more. So I'm going to say this is invalid. Sorry, this is from Dylan Waddle. So thank you very much, mate. That's a subscriber. I mentioned this in my community post as well. So thank you very much for the suggestion, Dylan. I'm going to say this is invalid. It's very hard for defenders to go 115 or more. It's a bloody good effort for them to get to 110. And I think at the minute, Aaron Hall in preseason is dealing with a bit of a Achilles issue. So I'm not really sure what the prognosis is on that at this point in time. But I think Aaron Hall it's a bit of a surprise pick. I think maybe if you went with more like a Dawson, Stewart, Sicily Doherty, that sort of type. But Aaron Hall, and he has to stay on the park. We know he's quite injury prone. So I'm going to say this is invalid, but thank you for the suggestion. Hunter Clark, breakout year. Thank you to Baz for the suggestion, another subscriber. I think it's valid, but he hasn't really said whether for SuperCoach or just in general. I think in general, I think it's his time to have a breakout year, and I think he can, for sure, if he gets a bit of an expanded role as well. I don't think there's been any issues at the minute during his pre-season. So for SuperCoach, if he's having a breakout year in real life, there's a good chance he can have a breakout for SuperCoach, and he's another mid-price player. I'd say this is valid. I think it's his time to shine. I won't say exactly what his score could be, but I think it's his time to have a big season, just in Kilda. Ben King is a lock, thanks to my good mate Will Osbaldstone. So he's a big fan of the channel, and he's a really good mate of mine. So thank you, mate. He originally did said Max King is a lock, but I think he's got it a bit confused. Max King is obviously out with a shoulder reconstruction for, it sounds like, the first 6 weeks of the season. So I'm pretty sure he meant Ben King is a lock. And I'm going to say, in my opinion, I'm going to say invalid, because there is a few blokes around that range that I personally prefer. First of all, he hasn't really had history of good SuperCoach scoring. I'm not going to say he's a lock. I do think he's a fine selection if you want to go there. I personally prefer like Oscar Allen, someone else around his price, about 15k cheaper. If Josh Bruce is best 22 and playing that intercept defending role, then I prefer that as well. But I totally understand the Ben King pick. He could be a Charlie Curnow, but Charlie Curnow had a bit of history in the past of better scoring, while King, I think in 2021, he averaged 54 or something. So if he can kick a bag early in the season, I think there's some good games and good opportunities for the Suns early in the season for Ben King to kick a bag. So I'm not going to say a lock, so I'm going to say invalid as him being a lock, but I think he's a fine selection. And thank you for Aaron for this suggestion. Marcus Windhager outscores Nat Fyfe. I'm going to say valid. I think Windhager's going to have a better role. He's not going to be tagging as much. I don't think St Kilda can afford to do that to his ceiling. I think he's got a really high potential. Marcus Windhager, I think he has a better ceiling than being just a tagger, and I think he'll be doing his own sort of thing in that St Kilda midfield. While Nat Fyfe, at the minute, it seems like he's training purely as a forward. So, if you count that up, Windhager, midfield role, doing his own, Fyfe, deep forward, I just don't see it for Fyfe to be a better scorer than Windhager. So I think this is a valid suggestion. I think Windhager is a fine. I think he's an all right option. I think there's a few others around that range, but if you want to go mid-price, another mid-price in that midfield, I can totally understand Marcus Windhager. Fyfe, I wouldn't be advertising at the minute. So, I'm giving this a valid opinion by Aaron. And last one, this is a bit more of just a general one. Look into teams with new coaches who look set to be given opportunities. I'm going to say valid, because there's obviously a different mindset to a new coach from a previous coach, so they're going to have their own philosophies and that sort of thing. And I think you just got to specifically look at the game styles that each club are going to be running. I've heard Essendon are going to be more of a possession sort of team early days. I think Ross Lyon, they're looking to be a bit quicker with the ball. I haven't heard much from Clarkson, or I think Kingsley might play a similar game style to maybe Richmond. I think that just seems to be the way that's transitioning at this point in time in terms of AFL game plans. But I think there's going to be new coaches that are going to prefer players over some other usual stalwarts at the club. I don't know if that's the word you say, but yeah, I think you're certainly going to keep a big eye on the new coaches and how they set up and what players they're looking to play in a certain position. So I think this is totally valid. So thank you to Mark Woods for sending me this suggestion. And look, that's the video, guys. I might be doing one closer to round one, another one of these. And leave in the comments down below some of your hot takes. I've replied to any comments, so you can reply whatever you like. If it is negative, I don't get many negative comments, but if it is, just be respectful and I'll reply to you. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys have a ripping weekend. I'm going to sit back and have a few drinks, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.